The Icons of Real Estate Podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing Icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business, from $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters at Real Estate Marketing, Ardor SEO.
Welcome to the Icons of Real Estate. I'm Tim Calloway. We have a very special guest for you today, Jordan Fisher. Jordan's the principal of Next Wave Investors, where he helps investors actually position themselves in multi-family properties. How are you, Jordan?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, exciting stuff. Always like having the the investor side on. That's my background, as a matter of fact. So I used to package REITs at Bear Stearns, starting way back in '92. Starting to show my age a little bit there. But why don't you go ahead and start by telling us, how you got started and your background, so on and so forth.
Yeah, so I didn't start off in the real estate industry. Out of college, I went to West Point for university, and so went straight into Army. Served as an Army officer in the late '90s, and when I got out of the service, I was a little bit broke, and and at the academy, you really don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about civilian careers. I studied physics and electrical engineering, and by the time I got off active duty, I'd pretty much forgotten all of it. So, from there, I took a position at Deloitte Consulting and pretty much, taught myself how to do some software development, and eventually started my own software consulting firm. In the early 2000s, Deloitte Consulting was kind of shrinking, because of the Y2K hangover. They kind of had a huge ramp up for Y2K and all the .com craziness, and then 2002 they were having trouble staffing people. So I ended up freelancing for a little bit and then starting my own firm. And while I was doing that, I didn't really understand investments. I kind of had trouble with a little bit of credit card debt. I had trouble living as an Army officer in Hawaii.
Right.
And so, I paid off some credit cards, and, I finally had a little bit of money in my pocket. And I was like, what do I do with this money? And, the stock market it never made sense to me. I felt like, there's guys that are professionals and they know more than I do, and they're evaluating these stocks. And every time I would dabble, I would lose money. And so, so then, I started thinking about real estate. And my father, when I was growing up, he was kind of in the real estate industry where he sold used refrigerators and stoves to apartment buildings. And so, the summers I'd work for him a little bit, and I'd see his customers, and, they seemed like they did pretty well. And so I started reading about real estate and investing in real estate, and it just made sense a little bit to me because, investing in a company, their forecast for their sales future just seemed like, where are they getting that? It's coming out of thin air. I sold $1 million this year, but next year I'm gonna sell 5 million. And you're like, how do you know that? But real estate, it's like this property is renting for, this unit's renting for $700, but the comps say it could rent for 800, and you can kind of go through expenses, and it just seemed like, I had a lot more confidence in that. So I also had this theory. I was working in Torrance, California, and I was living in Huntington Beach, and I was driving through a city called Long Beach, which most people have heard about. And Long Beach was pretty rough, and you're like, you can go in California, you can go from Santa Barbara down to San Diego, and there's this really one beachfront city that is not nice. And
Right.
so I kind of had a theory that it would gentrify and do better, you know, because when I was a kid, actually Santa Monica and Venice were kind of rough,
Yeah.
and
Sure.
you know, now they're very very expensive. So I kind of had this theory that eventually Long Beach would turn. Um, it doesn't seem like it's quite there yet, you know. So 20
Yeah.
years later, it's still a theory that is not quite there. But anyways, I started looking at some triplexes and I bought some and they did well. That was in like 2003, I think I bought my first deal. And, you know, it was just really, you know, things were cheaper back then and just with money in my pocket. And
Yeah.
I started 1031ing and getting bigger and growing my portfolio. And, you know, eventually got to be, you know, a pretty sizable portfolio. And I did some small partnerships with, you know, friends and family. And in the meantime, I started my own software consulting firm. And then in 2014, I sold my firm that I started with a partner and had a little bit more money in my pocket. And I didn't know exactly what to do with my life in general because I was kind of sick of IT and I liked investing in real estate. And so just kind of networking with some people, they thought, you know, well, why don't you turn this into a business and raise money from outside investors and really grow your portfolio? And so at the time, I was also met my business partner, David, and he was working at a REIT as a general counsel, and he was kind of ready to make a move. And so we started the company and started doing bigger deals, raising money, and it's kind of done really well since then.
Nice. Just kind of blossom from there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot. I mean, you know, it sounds good and all, but you know, I only like to talk about the good days. There's been
Yeah.
plenty
Let's
of
only talk
tough
about that.
times.
Nobody wants to hear the bad stuff.
No, no,
Uh,
no. So it's just easy money.
Easy money. Yeah. Life's easy too. So, tell me about your properties and your selection process and your due diligence on that. I mean, what's that look like?
Yeah, so it's also evolved a little bit. So when we first started the firm, you know, it was kind of crazy because, you know, I was invested in 2008 and 2009 and, you know, at that point you're just trying to hold on to your deals.
Yeah.
And Southern California bounced back really quickly. It might have been the first thing back that I saw, right? Where it's like by 2010, you're back to you know the pre financial meltdown rents and
Yeah.
values. And so by 2013, you're like at 125% of 2007. So I was, you know, which just seems crazy, but I was starting to get nervous that things were peaking, right? Because there was like 5 years of pretty good fast growth, and you just have this memory of just, you know, how tough, you know, leverage is a two edged sword, right? And
Right.
you know, even though I put down payments down, you know, rents dropped and occupancy dropped, but you know, expenses were still there. So yeah, I was really just trying to hold on. And so with that fresh memory, I was like, okay, Long Beach looks expensive. And I just started like, where else can I put some money to work? And we found Las Vegas because Las Vegas was ground zero of the financial meltdown.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
there was, you know, even though 2014 was, you know, like 4 or 5 years later, right? You still had squatters in homes. You still had real distress. And
Yeah.
so you're still able to pick up properties at like 30 cents on the dollar. And so we picked up some big properties in Vegas, very, very cheap, but it was deep turns. I mean, some of them, our worst property was 30% occupied
Ooh.
by residents.
Yeah.
That means that there were, you know, the other 70% of the units had squatters and, you know, feral cats
Yeah.
and other things in them. And,
Who knows what else?
but it was very, very cheap, you know?
Laboratories.
Yeah, yeah. So it was gross, but
Yeah.
yeah. So that was our original strategy was sort of late recovery markets in 2015 and 2016, and so we did a few deals in Vegas that were pretty rough, and we also in Tucson didn't get hit as hard as Vegas, but it was just way slower to come out. I mean, just a slow grow economy relative to
Yeah.
Phoenix, which is already kind of growing
Well,
quickly.
Scottsdale got it pretty bad. I actually moved to Tucson
Did you?
in 2009.
Okay.
Bought a
Not
house.
South Tucson, I hope.
No. Vale. You remember, Vale,
Uh-huh.
Southeast Tucson? No, we moved to Vale,
Yeah.
which was at the time supposed to be the next up and coming, and I should have known because of what happened. So, you know, my career ended in 2008 in Dallas, and
Yeah.
we basically I took a position in Tucson, and the home we bought was a builder had gone in, and you know, since you know Tucson, there are a lot of neighborhoods that still have dirt roads, just depending
That's
on where
right.
you go, right? And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean they're bad homes. They can be $1 million homes even, you know, some of them.
Yeah.
And so we decided, instead of, just because everything that had been going on, that we would take the opportunity to purchase a house from a defunct builder, right? But I should have known, being it was the last house in the cul-de-sac, and as you wrapped around the cul-de-sac, there were no other homes but just lots that were plotted off. And then went all the way up towards the mountains, because you know, Vale butts up
Yeah.
the foothills, and there was never another home built. I was there 10 years. I'm in West Palm Beach now, but we were there 10 years and
Wow.
never another house built. Now, the house increased in value a little bit, obviously, but everybody just gave up on you know,
On Tucson.
building these. Well, I don't know about Tucson. Yeah, I guess in a way. I got a lot of friends, people I still do business with in Tucson, and you know, up in the foothills and in Cat foothills, places like that, are the higher end areas. They still are. Vale is a kind of an older country town,
Yeah.
you know, but it's nice. But they're just like, nah, you know, we're not going to build any more 4,000 square foot homes in the middle of nowhere. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of weird. It's a real janky town, but Scottsdale got hit really bad.
Yeah, but it bounced back pretty
It did.
quickly
It
too,
did.
you know.
Yeah.
Whereas Tucson was really just slow to recover from the market, and it's an interesting town. I mean,
that whole
you know,
town's
because
slow.
yeah, it really is. I mean, you got the beautiful University of Arizona.
That is beautiful. My sons all went there. So yeah.
Yeah, but you kind of step 10 feet outside of it, and not that pretty of a city, you know.
Nope.
I mean,
Nope.
if you,
And I know my friends are listening, and they're gonna kill me. They know it too, though. But see, they're natives. So like, if you're a
yeah,
native to Tucson, and if you're from Tucson, you call yourself a native because they hate Phoenix. Um, it they don't care. That's just the way it is, you know?
it's pretty eclectic, you know. Like you
Yeah.
look at some of these houses, and there's no lawn, right?
There's
You
no
know,
lawn.
it's just
There's
like,
no
and
grass.
it's not even nice. It's not even nice rocks. It's just rocks with like
Hot rocks.
wild cactuses, and you think that it's just run down, but then it's expensive. I mean,
It's
people are just sort of
expensive.
eclectic like that there.
There's
Um,
nowhere, yeah, there's nowhere in Tucson, even if, and I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not picking on any areas, but
yeah,
you know, there's some areas, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe they paid 300,000, and
yeah,
their kid goes to
and you're like,
sunshine, you know, or
there's a
whatever.
there's a Whole Foods right here, but this house
Yeah,
looks like it's a tear down. But
right.
it's just eclectic, so
And I
it
know
takes
there's
a while to
60
get used
people
to. In
living. Yeah,
fact,
there's
we
60
never got
people
used to
living.
it.
No, I couldn't get used to it. And I counted the days. I just swore, when we moved from Dallas and uprooted the family, that my four sons would all go to the same high school, graduate. And
Yeah.
now I do have a son at the University of Miami. And
Hmm.
I just decided college, I didn't care. But dang it, we weren't going to move again. And the day my son graduated and left for the U, he's getting his PhD now, so we've already gone through 4 years. I mean, it's been
Uh-huh.
6 years. Um, I was out. I was gone. We sold everything. Like, we
Uh-huh.
didn't bring anything with us. That's how
Yeah.
bad I wanted to get out of Tucson. But you know, there are things I miss. But man, living by the ocean now, and Florida, and
Yeah.
what people
Yeah.
think of Florida, man, I'll take it.
Yeah. It's like that. And, you know, it's kind of, you know, we were very much into just really low price per pound when we started, you
Yeah,
know, and you get
yeah.
tired of that after a bit because,
It comes with
you
a
know, everything's
price.
hard, right? It's hard
Yeah.
to, you know, we self-manage. So it's,
Right.
you know, the best talent don't want to work in the worst property, you know. They want to work in the nicer properties. So you
Always.
got, you know, so it's tougher recruiting people. Your
Yeah.
tenants are tougher. And, you know, we just found that, you know, it's just hard to really hit your pro formas because,
Yeah.
at every, the residents, when they leave, they really damage the place. And so it's really hard to really model making a profit when you have to spend, $3,000 on every turn.
Right.
And so, we decided that, we're going to try and get places that, we feel a little bit more confident in, and move up a scale a little bit. And so, after we made money and all of that sort of property, and then we sort of just pivoted a little bit more to traditional value add, looking more for B products. And, our primary markets are, just all within a direct flight of Southern California, of Orange County, so, we're Salt Lake City and Vegas and Phoenix. And, we've done a deal in Dallas, actually a couple deals in Dallas. And then now we've last couple of years, we've been doing more in the Pacific Northwest and Portland and Spokane. And, but really the way we pick our markets is not like, we love this market, it's going to grow and explode. We feel all these markets are pretty good. We're going to limit ourselves to one time zone and a direct flight of Orange County, because it's just too hard to spend, to do a deal. You hear Nashville's amazing and Florida's amazing and North Carolina's amazing, and they are, but we just, spend a day getting there and a day getting back. It's just too hard for us.
Why stretch yourself, right? I mean, there's
that's the way we
of properties. Yeah,
we're pretty hands-on, like David and I, we're each, spend 2 days a week traveling. And that's 2 days a week on site. And so, there's enough opportunity in the West, we feel like, to where, we don't need to go any further.
For sure. So, accredited investors only, or is it open? Go ahead.
No, it's we do the was it C 506C, where it's pretty much sometimes we'll do a smaller deal and we'll do a B where we can let in a few. It really depends. So when David and I started the company, neither of us really came from money, and neither of us really came from a sales background.
Right.
And so, we really struggled to grow our investor base. Didn't even know how to get started, and so we do work with like third parties that do fundraising for us sometimes, and then, people can invest through their screening criteria if they want to invest with us. And then, sometimes we'll have some co-GPs for friends and family. And a lot of times that doesn't need to be accredited investors, but that's really limited to people we know. But, it's the business really requires everyone to be accredited.
It saves a lot of steps. It saves a lot. It definitely gets a lot of grief too.
That's right. And, it's probably appropriate anyways. These deals, have been phenomenal, right? But, the whole market's been phenomenal. And at some point, the market's going to turn. And, I'd rather have people that, they're investing a amount that they're comfortable with, and they understand if we need to hold, they don't need access to that money. And if we need to hold on to it maybe longer than we projected, they're okay with that because they don't need that money today.
Right.
So, I don't really want the responsibility of taking somebody's entire net worth or anything like that.
No, I've been that road myself, and I'm no longer in that arena, but it's a rough feeling when things go sour. So
if you were with Bear Stearns,
well,
some tough days.
They're not around anymore. So let's talk about how do you, you touched on it a little bit, how you find your investors. Is there a bigger marketing plan? Things have changed so much since I did anything like that, and I talked to other people that are in your industry. And it's just changed so much on how you find clients and how you can reach out to clients. So what besides a few of the houses that may help you, and bring clients to you, what's your outreach program?
It's, that's also something that David and I decided, there's people that have grown much faster than us. We started with, when we were doing the deals with our co-GP, we started with like 4 or 5 guys we knew that threw money into the co-GP, and it's grown word of mouth from there. And so we don't really do any proactive marketing, and the reality is that we're not trying to grow exponentially. You know, we'd rather grow a little bit slower and just make sure all our deals are successes. And so
Right.
sometimes people will approach us, be like, you know, hey, can you include me on them? I've got this money to invest, you know, where do you have something I can put in with? And a lot of times it's no. You know,
Wow.
we do like maybe 5 or 6 deals most a year. I mean, maybe it's usually probably like, and that's on a good year, and I imagine next year's gonna be slow.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're not always fundraising. We really kind of just do a deal we like, we'll fundraise for it, and so and most of the times it feels, you know, we're confident that our network that we've, it kind of keeps getting a little bit bigger, but right now we feel like our network, we can raise, you know, $6 to $7 million for a good deal. You
Okay.
know, 2 years ago it was three.
Right.
And so, you know, we'll do that maybe 2 or 3 times next year. And if that's enough to get the deal done, then we'll just do it that
Good.
way. And if
Yeah.
it's not enough, then we kind of work with third party fundraisers to fill the gap.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, well, let's just say I came into town and we decided, we go have a drink, have lunch, have
Mhm.
dinner, whatever, and we're just talking, and I said, hey, I got a magic wand, Jordan, and I can fix any one issue you guys are having right now. What might that be? What's the biggest hurdles you're encountering now?
So, I mean, we've got, it's people, you know, we've got like 65
Always
employees or
people.
so. And, you know, I mean, the execution of your business plan
Yeah.
really relies on your people. And so that's another, you know, thing that we've learned is that, you know, a lot of times you see like a broker's pro forma or
Mhm.
something where they're like payroll is like 1200 a unit. I've seen 800
Right.
a unit in payroll. I mean, you know what? That extra, we're running like 2000 a door in payroll
Oh,
because
wow.
that's what it needs. And
Yeah.
you know, you shortchange people. I feel like you shortchange the operation of the property. You know, your manager who makes maybe 60 grand a year, 70 grand a
Right.
year, she could be controlling a 30, 50,
Right.
$60 million asset, right?
Right.
And respond and of that asset, that's like 20, $30 million of equity. And
Sure.
so we need to make sure that we get the best people, and then we really have to give them the tools to do their job, whether it's marketing, whether it's, you know, capex, and, you know, really do the best for our residents because, you know, we're pushing rents, and so we got to give them a better product.
Right.
And so, you know, we're really, really focused on executing, making sure that we when we do a projection that it's fully loaded for doing the right things for the residents and the property, and then executing on that. And
Right.
it's really hard, you know,
It is.
when you're loading up on expenses, it's really hard to find a deal
Right.
that fits the, you know, these are real rents that I really believe we're going to hit. These are the real expenses we really think we're going to incur, and this is the real exit cap rate and sales price that we think, you know, and you're putting all that reality in there. It's
It
hard
it diminishes, yeah, the what would you call it? The scope of properties diminishes quickly, right?
it does, you know, and you know, everybody I know in the industry feels like they're conservative, and we don't look. We're in the business to do deals, so
Right.
you know, I'm not saying that you know, you can always poo-poo a deal out, but we really do try and be realistic and say like this is how it's going to perform, and we're going to be able to hit our pro formas. And so, you know, that's kind of where we're at right now, is really focusing on our asset management and property management, since we do both of that, and executing what we promise to our investors.
Do you have boots on the ground looking for properties? I mean, do you use local realtors in those markets like SLC, Phoenix, that flight, that area that you're talking about, or how are you finding the properties?
Yeah, so basically I tried to create the reputation of, you know, if I put together a PSA, I'm going to perform.
Right.
And so, you know, we don't try to retrade unless there's a very, very good reason of some undiscovered problem with the property. And, you know, if we're going to put it under contract, we're going to deliver as we promised. And so we network with the brokers because the brokers are calling people every day. And, you know, most of our deals are not, you know, a call for offers broadly marketed. That
Right.
doesn't mean they're just calling me, right? These brokers, they're you know, they talk to a seller and they're like, okay, well, maybe I'd entertain an offer at X price.
Right.
And so they call me and maybe 3 or 4 other guys and say, can you get to the seller's price or anywhere near the seller's price? And so we underwrite it. And since I'm out in the markets on asset management, then I'll go by and I'll tour it. And 9 times out of 10, I'm nowhere near the seller's price, or more like 99 times out of 100, because
Right.
they're not motivated, right? If they're motivated, they'd list, right? So,
Right.
but occasionally, I see something in a property that the other people don't see, and with limited competition, it doesn't necessarily get you an amazing price, but it gives me the time to where I model it, I start socializing with my investors, and I feel confident in execution. Whereas, a lot of times when they're broadly marketed, it's call for offers. I mean, this kind of ended like 9 months ago or 6 months ago, but you'd have to go like non-refundable very, very quickly.
Right.
And, I didn't have the confidence, unless it was a no-brainer but I didn't want to spend a lot of time wasting my time, wasting my investors' time, because to say I'm going to buy it at X price when a guy can come in at X plus 5 million, and so
right.
I didn't waste a lot of time doing those kinds of things.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. So if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, Jordan, how would they do so? If they either were looking to invest, which I know you're kind of, there's only certain times you're going to have that issue, or maybe maybe there's a broker out there that's got a property in those areas you're looking at. How would somebody get in touch with you?
Yeah, easiest. My email is just Jordan at NWI for Next Wave Investors Multi. So nwimulti.com. Our website is nextwaveinvestors.com. Those are probably the easiest ways to get in touch with me. And I like talking. I like eating too. So if you're ever in town,
yeah, I like eating food. Yeah, definitely, definitely. Hey, I'm in. I'm coming right now. Then, hey, here we are at the kind of winding down the half hour. Give me some last thoughts on the way out here. Whatever's on your mind, your soul, whatever you feel like you want to kind of have some parting words. What do you got for us?
I would say to anybody, this sounds like I'm sort of shit talking my competition, but I would say anybody thinking about investing right now, really, really look at the deck that your sponsor's putting out, because I've seen some decks right now where they've got high leverage debt, which is it's at like 8% right now.
Yeah.
And then that's followed by preferred equity, which is like 12 to 15%. And so your common equity that they're raising money for, I mean, it is a high risk sort of placement. And I don't think a lot of people understand the risks they're taking when they invest in those kinds of deals. I think a lot of people just might see like, hey, it's a 20% IRR.
Yeah.
And so, like, to me,
a lot of sizzle in those days.
Yeah, it's tough to get a deal done right now, because the banks and agencies are offering low leverage, but the bridge debt out there is so expensive. And so you got a choice of either, way negative equity or negative leverage, right? Where you're buying a 4.5 cap, but you're borrowing at 8%, or you're buying something with very low leverage and a ton of equity. And so, it just blows my mind that at some of these deals and how they're getting done and how they're capitalized. And I just wonder, are people cognizant of the risks that their sponsors are taking?
No, they're not.
Yeah, I don't think they are. I mean, they just trust the sponsor, but
they trust the sponsor, they trust the sizzle, and they don't realize where they fall in line on when and if deals go bad.
That's right.
They really don't. Jordan, it's been a pleasure, man. It's good stuff. Enjoy, and thank you for your service as well. I want to say that I just didn't want to interrupt earlier. Appreciate you being on the show. Definitely want to keep in touch next 3, 6, 9 months, see how things are going. And have a great week, man.
Absolutely. It's a lot of fun talking to you, Tim, and thanks for having me on the show.